Oh, wow. Wilton, and what?
I'm right outside the building. I'm wondering if I can park
Oh,
in.
wrong building. He's
No.
at
There's
the,
no parking out here.
Oh, no, Wilton, I don't know what address that is.
that would be the governing board meeting.
Oh,
South Street.
Lord,
He's
no.
only a few blocks.
Okay, no, we're at 24th and Arlington. 2301 West 24th Street.
Okay, because that's not the address that was on the flyer,
What flyer?
the meeting agenda.
I don't know why. Mine had the 2301. Did you send it?
23.
West 24th, right?
I'm looking at the agenda. We did have the Celsius House on it.
Yeah.
But the governing board's at Wilton and
Okay,
Washington.
well, I'll be there in 7 minutes.
Okay, wonderful. 2301. Okay. I'll hold it down.
All right, I'll be.
Okay, you'll be good. You'll be okay.
Yeah.
Hello,
Hey,
everyone.
Okay, sounds good. Okay.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye.
So let's say, for example,
Yeah, I have to start the video.
have the event be.
So I knew something else was odd.
Woo!
Hi,
Salonika.
hi there. This is Laura.
Sorry, how are you?
I'm fine. We'll be starting the meeting in about 5 minutes.
Okay.
And even though it looks like we're starting the meeting, and also we're at the South Seas House,
Woo!
which is already being decorated
Halloween.
for Halloween. So as you look around, you'll see, extra kind of ghost and goblin guests.
No, I understand, I was just letting, for whatever reason, you should change your hours.
Oops.
So do you want to change your hours from today or keep it that way? You said roughly about 16, right? If we still have the numbers. And which area do you want to do? Do you want to do it on the corner along Second Avenue? By the playground, that picnic table, I know that you don't have to use picnic tables, you can pick your own tables, but,
Hello, Nakia. This is Laura speaking. And Tori's walking back in. We'll be starting the meeting in a few more minutes.
3 minutes. John decided he's coming in person. Oh, God. This is going to be interesting. I mean, they gonna have a Halloween good time, huh?
Yeah. Where's she going?
Oh.
Nakia, you're going to do a presentation, right?
Yes, I am.
So I'm going to make you a co-host. And although we have 1 minute to go, we also have Tori needing to come back in to start the meeting.
All
right.
John, Laura.
7 o'clock.
7.
Hello.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
It's Halloween. Come on in. Hello, everyone.
This is a recreation and parks facility.
This is great.
Oh, see, I knew the phone gonna keep moving. Let me call him. Okay, it is now 7:01 p.m. We're gonna officially call the meeting to order. Turn this down. Anybody know if you're here? Okay, so, Lord, thank you. Okay,
And I'll share the screen with the agenda.
so I have Nakia first and then John, or John?
Yes,
and-
Nakia first. Yes. And I've already made her a co-host.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, as I said, we call the meeting to order, 7:01 p.m. And I'd like to welcome you first timers. I know there's a couple of first time visitors on this call, as well as John. This is his first time presenting on this call as well. So I'd like to open it up to any general.
Do you want to introduce yourself?
Well, I'm assuming everyone knows me. I am Tori Bailey, the chair of the UNNC Homelessness Liaison meeting for CD10 area. I welcome each and every one of you, and welcome to Halloween on steroids here today. But
Right.
I'm glad you guys have joined us, and we want to make sure that all questions are asked. If not tonight, then how about this week? Because that's what we do. We try to make sure we answer all questions within a reasonable period of time. And we welcome any announcements, general public comments, and you have 2 minutes to speak.
Right, and I'm going to stop the share of the agenda. My name is Laura. I am your Zoom host. But before I stop the share, after general public comments, we will have an update from LASA, which is a continuation from last month,
Right.
and then a presentation from our guest, John Nowdy.
No.
Okay, and then a round robin on current issues if we still have time.
Yes. There's so many current issues. So are there any public comments? Salanika, would you like to say anything about assisted living or anything that's not on the agenda? General public
Oh,
comments have to be anything not on the agenda.
no, I just want to say thank you, Tori, for inviting Larka to join us. And I hope to
Oh, no,
participate.
Mike. I'm sorry. The decorations got me off.
It's okay.
Way of
Yeah, you
walking
guys have
through.
an interesting setup with the Halloween decorations. I like them, but I just wanted to say thank you, Tori, for joining us for our advocacy trip in Sacramento on behalf of all licensed ARFs and RCFEs. It was very fruitful. It was effective. We met with 27 state offices, legislators, including the governor's office and the lieutenant governor's office, and I appreciate you joining us for that. That work is ongoing. We have had continuous meetings with our policymakers at the state and local level to work to bring immediate relief, as well as making those long-term changes that we know that are needed to improve the conditions for residents who are living in licensed ARFs and RCFEs, as well as for operators. They have been cash strapped. We've seen so many facilities close this year alone. And we
Excuse
definitely
me, Salonika, could I interrupt you for a minute? When
Sure.
you say the acronyms, could you tell people what the acronyms stand for?
Sure. So LARCA, the Licensed Adult Residential Care Association, is a nonprofit organization representing more than 400 licensed ARFs, which are adult residential facilities. They are state licensed by the Community Care Licensing Division to provide for whole person care for adults and elderly residents who are living with a serious mental illness. And we have members who own and operate ARFs, adult residential facilities, as well as RCFEs, residential care facilities for the elderly. And they primarily care for them by providing them with full, residential house-like environment, caring, medication management, meals, recreation, and the likes. And so we're primarily in Los Angeles County, but we definitely plan to expand. And we know that what the state pay of $44 per day for the owners and operators to care for residents is simply not enough. And they've been struggling for very long. And so that's why we're working to make changes immediately as well as long term. So thank you again for inviting us.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. That was fantastic. Any more public comments? Nariel, you want to update us on anything? Donna, what's going on in the community? 2-minute public announcements or comments? Well, I will say that today I participated in the Department of Mental Health Commissioners meeting, and Care Court is finally going to open in December. And I know a lot of people have been waiting for that. So they're going to have 10 sites in 10 courthouses across Los Angeles. So, and they're going to talk about, self-help centers, referral entry points. They're saying the media campaign is going to start November 1st. And the judicial courts, they're going to have 5-minute videos throughout the courts when you're sitting there for whatever reason. You'll hear these courts promoting Care Court, and it's going to be very interesting. So I got some of the names of the people who are going to be in charge, and perhaps we can have someone, a representative, come speak to West Adams Avenues Association, to UNNC, and so everyone will know by the time it's implemented in December that there's that resource there. That's my comment or public announcement for now. Nariel, you ready to go back out?
Yeah, let's go. It's gonna be hard for me to do a weekday now because my job is pretty much Monday to Friday now. But to help organize, I'm happy to help organize a weekend thing. I would love to.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's about that time because most of the housing is finished being built now that they said they were waiting on. And let's see what the holdup is, if any.
By the way, the folks over at that gas station on Adams, if they're doing a Thanksgiving thing again and they need some hands, happy to help them out.
We was thinking about that. Someone announced on Wednesday night that they had food, but this time the person's not around that cooked for us the last time, but I can get somebody to cook it. And if I let them know early enough, they'll have sponsors for the drinks and the sides or what have you. So
Great.
Yeah, I'll talk to him about that sometime within the week.
Cool. You got my number. Happy to help with anything.
Okay, sounds good. I appreciate it. Okay. So we know that Nakia has a multitude of information to share with us tonight. And we want to make sure that everyone also knows that John is here and he is going to speak after Nakia and answer any questions anyone may have regarding tenants' rights, or he's going to give us an overview of what he actually does with his specialty and what he really enjoys doing on his day-to-day activities. Hi, Nakia. Okay, we're ready for you.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. I am Nakia Brazier, the Community Relations Coordinator for SPA 6 with LASA. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, so just give me a moment while I.
To speak a little louder.
But she's trying to figure.
Okay. LASA. That's the Los Angeles Homeless Service Authority. Okay.
They've been coming around in Pomona to the parking lots in Pomona.
Really?
Yeah, I'm trying to do a census around the house.
Wow. Okay.
Okay. Good evening. I'm just going to be fully transparent. I am a little bit exhausted from the week. I'm happy that it is Thursday. So I do apologize if my energy is a bit low tonight, but we will make it through this presentation.
Yes. Can you project a little?
Yeah. Is this better?
Let me see. It may be on our end.
Okay. So I will be presenting on the 2023 homeless count.
That's good.
Is that better?
Yes.
Well, because I increased the volume on our end.
Okay. Okay. So we're actually going to get into the second part of the presentation. When I was here with you all last month, I presented on the numbers. So again, just a reminder of where we are in the county and in the city. So the Los Angeles COC as a whole. In the county, we have witnessed a 9% increase in homelessness from last year. And in the city, we have a 10% increase of homelessness from last year. And so the estimated number is that through the county, 75,518 people are homeless. And in the city, 46,260 people are homeless. And this is including both sheltered and unsheltered populations.
Oh, okay.
And so we went through when we were together last month, we went through the demographics of who is homeless. And today we're going to talk a little bit more about what is the national situation looking like? What is the situation look like in our spas? And then thinking about some of the solutions going forward. And so while the increase is disappointing and we're back on the same trajectory of having increased homelessness, one couple things to note is that in SPA 6, there was actually a decrease observed, which is a statistically significant decrease of 1,603 people. So 1,603 people fewer were observed this year than in previous year. So we do hope that we still see the same numbers in this coming year, but we will keep an eye on that. And in thinking about this increase.
I'm sorry, Nakia, I'm sorry, but remember when you say acronyms, can you tell them?
Service planning area, yes, so the service planning area. So within LA County, there are 8 service planning areas, and so West Adams and UNCC falls in the SPA 6 service planning area, or the service planning area 6. So that's why I'm highlighting service planning area 6 numbers, since our neighborhood council falls within that service planning area. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Nakia, this is Laura. Actually, part of our neighborhood council is SPA 4.
Okay.
But
the majority.
The majority is SPA 6.
Yeah.
And we tend to, for the homeless count, we focus on SPA 6.
Yes.
Correct. And I guess the other part too, in thinking about what SPA you're in, is really thinking about what service provider is providing services in your area. And so the service provider, the coordinated entry system lead is HOPIX, and they are the service provider in SPA 6, and that's who renders the services in that area, even though part of your district or your council is in SPA 4. You're all serviced by SPA 6 outreach teams from HOPIX.
Okay.
And so as I was mentioning, the rise in homelessness, right, is that we're seeing in the city and the county. It's not surprising, particularly given the national and regional trends in California and in the country as a whole. And so from this graph, what we see is that nationwide, we have seen an increase in homelessness. There's only been one state, one city actually, that has really been successful in reducing homelessness, unsheltered homelessness, and that's Houston. And part of that is because they have moved more towards permanent housing, right? And so fewer people are going into interim housing and more people are going into permanent housing. And we'll see what that looks like for us in the Los Angeles continuum of care as well. And then when we look regionally in the state of California, Santa Barbara did have a small decrease in homelessness, but all the other cities here and counties have had increases in homelessness as well, some larger than the ones that we've seen here in LA. And when we think about, we'll get a little bit more into the conversation as well about really what are the drivers of homelessness. And several studies have shown that it really is affordable rents that are driving up homelessness in the state. And so we'll talk a little bit more about what solutions there are to create more housing opportunities. And so I wanted to share with you all some of the gains that we have had as a continuum of care. And so one benefit that we have seen is that our shelter capacity remains the same and actually higher than it was during the pandemic. So in 2019, the number of shelter beds was 15,617. But when we fast forward to 2023, the number of shelter beds have increased, so there's more beds available. So in 2023, there were 26,245 shelter beds available. And so that is somewhat, we can see that as a gain for our continuum of care, that we have increased our capacity in shelters. Other gains that we want to really highlight is how much time it takes to move from outreach to interim housing, right? In the past, it had taken 110 days to move someone from outreach into interim housing, into a shelter, right? And that could be for several reasons. Sometimes it may be resistance to receiving services, but sometimes it's because there was a lack of availability. So the system has been improved to continue to really increase the number of people who are going from interim housing from street outreach to interim housing, and reducing the amount of time that it takes to move people inside. And this again is just showing again the amount of time that is taking, the amount of time that is taking to move people inside. What we saw that not only is it taking less time, but we're moving more people into interim housing as well. So from this time last year, we have had an increase of 30% in interim housing placements from street outreach. So we have a combination. We have more shelter capacity, then we are reducing the amount of time that it takes to move someone from outreach into interim housing, and then are bringing more people from street outreach into interim housing. So while again, we do have an increase in homelessness, we have increased our capacity to move people inside into interim shelter. Additionally, when we look at our permanent housing placements, that has increased over several years, right? So from 2017, we had 14,252 permanent placements, and fast forward to 2022, we were able to make 22,540 into permanent placements. And so that, again, really getting us to those permanent housing solutions is what is going to end homelessness. And so again, while these statistics of having this increase in homelessness is discouraging, we are increasing the capacity again in the system to house people. But there's more. Really, how do we get there, right? How do we get to ending homelessness in the city and in the county? And really what is needed is a coordinated path forward. So when we think about the populations that we looked at in the previous presentation, in terms of like the demographics, right? We see that African-American folks are disproportionate represented in the homeless population. And so what we're saying is that we need a specific strategy to address some of these demographic populations, right? And so when we set out to address a specific population, we have seen changes. So in particular, when we set out as a COC to address veteran homelessness, we saw a change. And so we're looking at addressing homelessness for specific populations. Additionally, we need to address unsheltered homelessness that span that nationwide. So these encampment resolutions, Inside Safe, expanding that nation, or not nationwide, countywide. And then really increasing the work to move towards resolution encampments in one unified system. Oh my goodness, I'm sorry. I feel like I am. Okay. And so when we look at why people are becoming homeless, particularly here in LA, what we found is that one of the main reasons why people fell into homelessness is because of a loss of income. Now you pair that when we look at the income level of the majority of people in LA County, particularly working class folks, the average household income was $935. This is given in a situation where someone became homeless, right? So if someone became homeless, typically their median monthly household income was $935. Compare that to the average monthly rent rate of $252. There's another slide that I don't have in this presentation, but what it shows is that when your rent rates are at least 22% higher than your median incomes, that's when homelessness begins. However, in the city and county LA, the rent rates are about 33% higher than the median income. And so that is what is creating a situation of homelessness, unaffordable rent. And then pair that with histories of trauma for people of color, older adults, and folks who are higher risk. We see that compounding who is experiencing homelessness in the city and the county.
Quick question before you go forward. That amount was per month, the 935?
Yes. So what the slide is showing is that in a situation where someone became homeless, in most instances, their income was $935. But if we look, and again, I don't have the slide, I'll bring it back to you, Tori. But if we look at the overall income, not just for someone who goes into homelessness and what they were making before homelessness, but in general, right? The overall income level of most working class folks in LA is way lower, 22, almost 33% lower than what the rent rates are.
Wow. Wow. Well, that explains a lot.
Yeah.
Right. And so this is why we have often what we're seeing is there's a faster outflow or inflow into homelessness that we can bring people inside. People are getting moved to the streets or moving to the streets faster than we can move people inside. And so part of that is people are getting pushed out of affordable living situations. And so thinking about what other things are needed besides housing, right? We want to look at preventions. And again, thinking about particular populations who experience homelessness or people who have particular experiences, right? So our foster youth often are experiencing homelessness at a higher rate than youth who are not in foster care systems. And then looking at our folks who have been incarcerated and coming home from incarceration. And so what would help really is to expand prevention services for foster care youth in the reentry field, help to prevent evictions, support people with developing in the workforce, and then providing health and mental health care services, right? So yeah, providing the housing, but also providing these other services such as coaching, limited cash assistance, and connecting folks to subsidies would benefit us in ending homelessness. Then when we think about kind of some of the measures that have been passed that would actually help to create new housing, right? This is major. Again, we have more people coming into the streets than we can move them in. Faster they're coming out into the streets, faster we can move them in. And so the County of Los Angeles is on track to create 5,000 new units, and this is funded through Measure Triple H. And then we have Measure ULA. It is United to House LA. Can be extremely instrumental. I would love to share with you, and Corey, if you can have someone to come in from ULA would be great, but I will share with you some of the stuff in the coming weeks that I get from ULA. And so ULA will be instrumental in helping to keep people housed, particularly our older adult populations, right? And then the LA County did create a new agency. It is comprised of several mayors from throughout the county. And this is called La Casa. So it's the Los Angeles County Affordable Housing Solution. And so when La Casa is fully funded, they would be more the entity responsible for protecting affordable homes and scaling up new housing developments. Because as of right now, we don't really have any agency that's sole responsibility is ensuring affordable housing is available. And so we really just need more homes to end homelessness. And that is really our path forward. We all want the same thing. We want to bring our unhoused neighbors inside to permanent homes as quickly as possible. It's going to require a coordinated effort between the city, the county, and our service providers to get us there. And I thank you for your time, and that is the end of my presentation. I can take any questions that you may have.
That was a lot.
Yeah.
Man. Anyone can ask any questions? Abel, is that you? You joined us?
Yes, I've joined you and I have a question, but I'm happy to be here. I'm very,
Thank
very
you
happy to
for
be here.
attending.
Okay,
And I
and,
see
and,
Muriel raised their hand also.
right, so this is what I'm going to ask. Is that people, I mean, Abel, you were called on, so you'll go first, and I will ask that people in the physical room raise their physical hands, and people in the Zoom room, please raise your Zoom hand if you can. So, but Abel, you were called on first by Tori, so please go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you, Tori, for allowing me to be here. I appreciate you all the time. And Nakia, that is such a great, wonderful presentation. You know, I want to have you in my meetings now to give that. That's so
Yeah.
great. But so the proposed solution is to me the most powerful section of everything you gave, of course. The fact that we got 20,000 people going into, being homeless, and then as we're housing them, of course, there's the cycle taking place, and you've identified that very well, Nakia. The proposed solutions, I'd like to have a conversation around that, about helping and how that can be integrated in the faith community, of course. And I'm trying to get our one-on-ones going again. I'm telling you, I really want that. You were the one to first propose it, so let's make that happen. The only question I guess I'll leave you with, I've already given you my ask about touching base with you on the proposed solutions. And I really believe the faith community, of course, is going to be able to help with that. That's a long-term fix. We're not going to fix it in 6 hours, but we can work on that. Just one last question. The La Casa mayor, you mentioned La Casa is comprised of mayors. Are the four mayors in SPA 6? Are they in that? Do you know?
I do know
Compton,
that Mayor
Paramount,
Emma
Linwood.
Sharif from Compton is one of the mayors who is on La
Wonderful.
Casa. I don't know if any other mayors I think Linwood and Paramount, their mayors may also be as well, but I do know that Compton, at least like the independent city mayors, are on La Casa. LA proper mayors, so Karen Bass, I do not believe is on the board or on the committee.
Well, she's
Can
not.
Can I say something about that? Holly Mitchell is primarily our point person here for La Casa. They did go to Vienna to study some things that was happening over there, and we will have a speaker that went on that trip to show us the slides and to show some of the outcomes that they came up with to help our city.
That's fantastic. Great. I'm happy to be here. That's all I've got. God bless you. Let's get it done.
Okay. Well, I was going to say, Nuriel.
There's a virtual hand.
Nuriel.
Yeah. So thanks, Nakia, for the presentation. I agree. I think it's really encouraging, and I'm glad to see too that between the state and the city and even our neighborhood council, there's a lot of energy towards building new housing, getting new housing built, getting units on the market, getting opportunities for people to get housed, and hopefully we continue to see progress. One thing I wanted to highlight in there, so in my day job, I work over at LA General as a physician, and one of the things I do there is I'm the neurologist for the LA County jail system. And so when you brought up reentry, I will tell you, and I don't know if this is something we maybe can talk offline about, or if there's more to do here, but when folks are finally out, so I'm on the jail side, not prison, but when folks re-enter and especially folks who have been formerly homeless and end up getting housing directly, we lose track of them completely medically. I actually had it today where somebody who was released, I was trying to figure out, because they were making their appointments while they were in jail, but now I can't even get a phone number for them, and I don't know where they are. And then, going back to the sheriffs, going to the correctional facility, they don't know where the patient, where my patient went either. So, making sure, because, if these folks are losing, their medical care, they're losing their medicines, man, they'll be back in the hospital. They're not going to have the stability, et cetera. So, making sure too that we're keeping the connections between their healthcare too when they transition in re-entry. I don't know if it's an area of focus, but if there's any way I can help, I'd love to do so.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, Nuriel, I'm sure that's something you can definitely do. I worked a project in the men's central jail, and I monitored and audited their medical records. Well, Mike is here, and could give some input on that system. But one of the things is we do have contact with one of the gentlemen who actually created a curriculum and a text on reentry, because everybody gets out, they get their couple of dollars, they have nowhere to go and nowhere to meet them and don't know what to do. So I'm sure there could be somebody, if we had some funding, to be there to track, but the problem is the patient confidentiality and privacy issue with HIPAA. I don't know how we'll have to massage that and see how we could come up with a solution for that one. Yes, Laura.
Yeah, no, this is not a new problem.
No, it's not.
The medicine travels separate
Right.
from the inmate.
Right.
And that's whether the person is moving to a different, I'll say jail, different facility.
Or being released.
Or being released. The medicine always travels separately or doesn't travel at all.
That's true.
And this is not at all new.
No.
And Nuriel, I don't know if you deal with a psychiatric population.
Neuro. Yeah, he's neuro.
I mean, yeah, but obviously people have mixed.
Well, I'm just saying
they might have multiple conditions. Yeah.
My former stepson was in the psychiatric side of it and in jail. So it was very difficult. It was very difficult to just move medicine with the person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I missed that last statement you said, Nuriel.
No, just, if there's any room there, Nikki, if this is an ongoing program or to focus the boss, I'm happy to connect. I know that when folks get discharged from the correctional facility, they're given a 30-day supply of medications. That's something that I'd like to explore, but I know that that's a nexus, that's on the health side, but it's all at the county level. So hopefully there's good opportunities there for working together.
Yeah,
anyway, that's all. Thank you.
Improvement.
Yes.
There's always room for improvement.
Nuriel, I don't know if you're joining on Zoom and you have access to view the chat. I did leave my chat in the, or my contact in the chat box. There is, I told you I was tired, y'all. I'm exhausted. I'm running on fumes right now. I am running on fumes right now. So LASA does have a reentry coordinator. So they would be the person to connect with. I don't know if in terms of the medicine component, if that's something that LASA will be responsible for, or would not. I would just say would not be responsible for. At least you can connect with the reentry coordinator to kind of have some conversation about ideas around housing and kind of some of those solutions. So please feel free to contact me and I'll get you connected with the reentry coordinator.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And I see that April dropped a good resource too. Thanks all.
Yeah, that would be great, Nuriel. But one thing that I would think that you could do up front is make sure that they sign an authorization up front to make that happen if their process has not improved from a compliance standpoint.
Well, we know how good the correctional facilities are at compliance.
No, I know, but there's a standard compliance.
No, I know. Yeah.
You know.
No.
You have to take it upon yourself. That's an improvement, and at some point they will adopt it, because it's not like we don't work on sheriff's campaigns sometime.
Yep.
So there's always room for improvement, and that's why we have these forums so we can discuss and improve.
Abel has his hand up.
Abel?
Give me off mute. It's not good to be mute if you don't have to be.
Right.
I did, thank you for highlighting that, Nuriel. I did drop, SPA 6 has a reentry program. So the reentry program in SPA 6 is housed at Hopix. I dropped the reentry program manager's name, Monty Anderson, and I appreciate, I haven't got a chance to meet you yet, but I appreciate you, dear sister, sharing the experience that you've had with that. Just to let you know that the lead person up under Monty is Rudy, parole, and Rudy actually was in prison for 40 years and works very actively the last 6 or 7 years with inmates in reentry. He was very closely with them. So feel free to reach out to Monty and connect with the reentry program that's officially here in SPA 6, as well as what Nakia mentioned that LASA has available.
Perfect. Thank you. These are great resources.
Yes. So Monty's last name was what, Abel?
Anderson.
And oh, he's back on me.
It's Monty Anderson.
Rudy.
I got parole. Yeah. Anderson. Okay, wonderful. Well, that's good. Make sure you guys, everybody get this information. Donna, there's an ongoing concern that you have when it comes to housing referrals for homelessness. Abel, maybe you can listen to what Ms. Donna Jones says about the reason why she and others do not house because of lack of support from the agencies. Since we have 2 agencies on right now, what kind of information or new support could be given after you listen to her concern? Donna?
Put Donna on
Yes. Hi.
Okay.
I'm a mom and pop property owner who no longer does Section 8 because I've dealt with people who have serious mental health issues. As you guys all know, it's all good about having a housing, but you cannot place people that everyone who actually does work with you to place them, once they get them in your property, they no longer provide any support. In fact, what they told me was do the same thing you do with everyone else. As far as dealing with, I actually had a veteran who was digging holes and bringing in full-grown trees onto the property, as well as hoarding to a large degree. He had a counselor with Veterans Association, and the counselor was afraid of him. So I ended up in a really bad situation, and I said, if and when I come out of this, I no longer will do anything to put myself back in that situation, because the tenants who were good tenants, who were working with the system, working together, doing everything, were no longer wanting to live there. So it put me in one of the worst situations I've ever been in. And I know a lot of what I see locally are people with mental health problems on the streets. They're not people who lost their jobs or can't afford to pay the rent that's gone higher or whatever. The ones I see locally are the ones with drug and addiction problems. And my other neighbor just wrote to me today and said the same thing. I have a veteran I brought in. They gave me a nice stipend to place him. I ended up using all the money that I got from actually getting him into the building, because they wanted to sweeten the deal, to try to get him out. He ended up having to pay $3,600 to get him to move, because it was $5,000 to get a lawyer. So that's where I am. Sorry it took so long, but that's where I am. I no longer do it.
Abel, did you want to speak to this?
Well, let me add to that before you say. So her concern is the concern she had, but there's others that have, with the mental illness comes violence and destruction. So how does the agency help support in those endeavors?
Yeah, for that, I would recommend reaching out to DMH.
Wait. Abel, you're speaking, but you're mute.
Yeah, but as far as the funding, there is a RFSQ process. The faith-based community have been holding workshops around kind of like funding opportunities and getting people through that process. And so there are opportunities. Again, if you want to connect around funding opportunities and want more information about that, please email me and I will get that information over to you. Abel, did you want to speak to mom and pop shop type of situations and what work you all are doing around that?
Yeah, 'cause they probably, you're muted, Abel.
And here I am muted. There's some people who like to be muted all the time.
Stop
So
muting yourself.
it's all good. It's all good. So yeah, first off, yeah, and just to be clear on what Nakia shared, there was a funding workshop that took place last week. That's not just for the faith-based community, to be clear. That's because I and others asked them to come because the faith-based community want to know about funding, but that's another conversation. I want to make sure I'm in this conversation real clear. So Donna, you said they. I want to make sure I understand. So from what I understand, it sounded like you were working as a landlord, and then some agency housed some folks there, and it turned out they had some mental health issues, and you were trying to get the agency to come in and deal with this particular person, this tenant, after they had them housed there, and you were having trouble getting them to actually come in and deal with this tenant's mental health issues. Is that
Yes.
That's right? Okay.
Section 8.
Section 8. So it was through Section 8. It sounds like through HUD. Is that right?
Yeah, it was a combination, right?
Okay. I'm always like, what agency? And I know, we want to be respectful in a group setting like this, but I'm always like, who was that? And if it's somebody I can deal with, let me go deal with them. But anyway, Nakia is correct in of course highlighting DMH, the Department of Mental Health. I've had the pleasure of working with them because they have a faith-based section over there. So I'm working with their faith-based people, but they're very good and they're very strong at what they're doing. And they've been doing a lot of outreach this last year and more. I'm sure more. I just entered the game January 3rd myself. So there's that. And I know that for clients, I know about HOPIX because HOPIX is the lead agency for adults in SPA 6. So for clients that HOPIX has, there is a trauma recovery center, a TRC. But I also know, from what I understand, because I was in a presentation today from Dr. Farah from the Trauma Recovery Center at HOPIX, the lead agency, and she was saying that people can actually drop in. They're on Central. In fact, I'll look her information up and drop it in the chat. But I'm just trying to speak to your concern. Of course, honestly, I get it. I was a department manager, and my wife went through a lot of trauma from certain tenants we had in the building, and we didn't have help, and nobody had placed them there. And that, again, is another conversation. But to speak to what you're dealing with, I get it about you not wanting to not want to deal with that again. I totally get that. That's for real. But just know that I know that there's a trauma recovery center, like I mentioned, at the lead agency if you're dealing with HOPIX. And then I know that there are subcontracted agencies that likewise have connections with their trauma recovery. And also there's that connection with Department of Mental Health. So put it in a nutshell, there are agencies that have that built in. I don't know what HUD has. I don't know what they had through their Section 8 program, but I do know that, let me put it to you this way. If there's a situation, you can always reach out to an agency to see what else they have. It doesn't sound like they HUD, but if you're dealing with somebody like HOPIX, you get it. I think I'm beating the horse right now. But the point is if there's something else, you can always reach out for something else. There's eviction prevention. I don't know if their funding's still standing at this point because there's a lot going on in LA. But that's for an example. They're different programs. I just put in reentry, for example. It's like, oh, there's reentry. Yes, there's reentry. So I'm just saying that if you're dealing with an agency, always try to, get in tune with what they got. Does that help anybody? Is that helpful?
Well, I guess what you're saying is HOPIX stands behind their clients. Is
yeah,
that
and
what
to
you're
be
saying?
clear, Tori, I want to make something real clear because you and I've had conversations. I'm here based at, I say based for a reason. I am based at HOPIX, but I work to connect with all agencies. What y'all call mom and pop. If I'm talking to a mom and pop, I'm like, what you got? I tell them, send me your flyer. You know me. Send me your flyer. I have a shared folder. Tori's heard me put this out. I got a shared folder. I take all resources, whatever you got. I take your flyer, I put it in there, share with the faith community, and I understand other people look in there too. I tell them, if you got an event, send the event to me in a flyer, and I put that in the flyer folder, and me and other people.
Okay, Abel, yeah, I got it. Abel, Donna has her hand up. Donna, go ahead.
Abel, thank you for the comments. I was dealing with topics for one of the families that I actually dealt with some years ago. And they actually, with an outreach, had a person come out, look at the unit, place someone there, dealt with it for about 6 months, subsidized housing. As soon as they, I don't know, maybe didn't actually let us know it was probably a 6-month program. Once they paid for their move-in, they paid for everything. And then once they got past the 6 months, they basically dropped them. And the people never paid another month's rent.
So they
went
finished
on.
the program, you're saying, right? To make sure I'm.
Yeah, they weren't
That's the
clear.
point.
They'll tell you, oh yeah, we have a wonderful program. We'll place these people. We'll pay for their move-in. We'll pay for the last month. Well, the last month was as soon as the 6 months was up, and the people never paid. They have you can't reach out to them. They no longer are supportive. There was no counseling person that worked with them. So it's, I suggest to anyone who rents housing, do not play with them, because you're gonna be sorry.
I hear you, but let me just give you one more thing, if I may. I've been in SPA 6 working at Hopix, out of Hopix, before I was a faith-based regional coordinator, and I've been part of the process of evolving and kind of cleaning and fixing things up. So the Trauma Recovery Center, I believe, is a little bit newer than the time period yourself. So all I'm trying to say is, when I finish talking, I'm going to actually drop in the Trauma Recovery Center's information. So feel free to reach out to them just to kind of figure out, okay, well, this happened before. What do you guys have? And have that conversation with them. So I'm gonna put that in there. Is that cool?
Write that number down when you drop.
Yeah, so,
Okay.
and
So-
let me say to everybody, I will be saving the chat,
Yeah.
and I will also, we have the transcript going, you may be able to see this. So anyone who wants a transcript of this meeting and or the chat will be able to email us after the meeting and get it from us. So,
Okay, thank you.
And make sure you put the email where they can email you, Laura, to get it.
no.
And put it in the
Yeah, but they
chat.
won't have it. I can do that right now.
Yeah, do it now, yeah, so they can have it.
Maybe.
But no further ado, that was a wonderful dialogue and conversation, and Nakia, we enjoyed your presentation as well. And hopefully, as tired as you are, you'll stay on and listen to Attorney Nani, and we'll take it from there. But I'm gonna let him give us some details and introduce him further and let us know what he does on a daily basis that brings him here to provide help to SPA 6.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes,
And I will see you all next month. Thank you.
Oh, don't leave yet. John, go ahead.
All right, so thank you for having me. I'm not going to talk that long because law is boring, but what I am willing to do is if anybody has questions about specific housing issues, I don't mean policy or funding or anything like that. That's not what I deal with. In my private practice, I sue slumlords. And in my spare time, I do free tenants workshops, live in person for organizations. I'm booked for the rest of the calendar year, but if anyone is interested in maybe seeing about starting something in January, you can connect with me. My webpage is mytenantlawyer.com. The office phone number is 8444-tenant. And since the possibility of what people might have questions about are so large, I figured it's not worth anyone's time to listen to me talk about law for even 10 minutes, because if there's something specific you want to know, I'm happy to answer it. So I'll just open the floor if there's questions. If there's not, then my time is done.
You can give us some example of what you may do if there's no questions. And
Does anybody have any questions?
Well, I would probably want to say, how do you define a slum landlord? So because, and I say this because so many of the tenant rights lawyers don't seem to differentiate between small mom and pop landlords, corporate landlords, slum landlords. All they're doing is representing the tenants as best, with the best advocacy that they can, regardless of the circumstances.
Right. So to me, I don't care if it's a mom and pop or a big corporate landlord. If the place is a slum, it's a slum. And if that person, those landlords need to be sued because these people are living with rats, the kids are getting sick. I mean, bed bugs,
I agree
right?
with that.
That's what I mean by slumlords.
Okay.
I don't, right now, Stay House LA is doing the best they can defending evictions for free because there's funding. I'm not taking on any eviction defense work. What I do is I try to give my time outside of work in order to do workshops and things like that, but I don't have capacity to take, because these cases, almost all of them are going to trial. So.
Well, this was exactly my point.
Yeah.
Regardless of the circumstance, almost all of them are going to trial.
Yeah.
Which is creating a situation that, it's harmful to the landlords who may be in the right, meaning they may have a tenant who hasn't paid rent in 17 months.
They might.
Whatever. And without it being caused by COVID.
Statistically, the landlords are coming out far ahead in the trial situation. Most tenants don't have lawyers, and 95% victory rate for landlords when tenants don't have an attorney. So, I can't speak to, specific situations where the landlord is right and the tenant's wrong. What I do is I just simply try to help whoever's in the room with the questions they have. Sometimes the little piece of advice is the difference between ending up homeless and not, because there's a lot of misinformation online. Google is sometimes your worst enemy. Because the law has changed so much in the last few years. There's been so much misinformation. So, okay, clearly you can get bad information, but you could also get information that used to be good, right? If you're not looking at the date of the article, right? Because we had, COVID's over, but it didn't used to be over. So I still get people calling and saying, well, there's a moratorium. No, there's not, right? So it's just about, bringing everyone, as best we can to current information and then helping them plan their life accordingly. And in some instances, if they are $17,000 in debt, and they're going to owe it all February the 1st when the rent's due, sometimes the best option for everybody is to negotiate a move out and a forgiveness of debt, because the tenant's not collectible, the landlord just wants them out, the tenant doesn't want to go to collection, right? Sometimes it's just best for everyone to go their separate ways. But of course, each situation is different. You have to look at the nuance of it. But things like, there are landlords now that, because they're behind on their mortgage payments and things like that, they're trying to illegally increase rent on rent controlled units that you can't right now. That you also have tenants that are doing bad things. So I don't make judgment calls like on who's right and who's wrong. That's not my job. What I just try to do is to help people as best I can who are there in front of me. And by that, I mean, I present the options available to them. I don't tell them what they should do. No lawyer should make such a personal decision or like that to say what you should or shouldn't do with your family. And so we did this a few weeks ago, right? This is how we ended up here. Is I did a presentation, and then more times than not, what happens is you have to cut off the questions, because once the room starts rolling, it's quite the townhouse.
Yeah, which is why I'm like, oops, look, we have hands raised.
Right. Okay. So go ahead.
So Nuriel was first, Abel was second.
Yeah, hi. First off, thanks so much for coming to the committee and talking to us. I think obviously this is a tremendous issue, and in our UNNC, I think something like 70-80% of the people we represent are renters. And so I think it's a predominantly very big issue for our UNNC. And I would also say, to that end, of people on our governing board, I think the minority are renters. And so we're actually really, I think, in need of having renter voices here. So to the extent, if you know any, yourself, but maybe if you know any tenant advocates, I know right around me, there's 2 or 3 buildings where they were clearly in such a dispute with their landlord that they've like draped banners outside their building to bring attention to it. So there's clearly a lot going on in our footprint. And these are potentially community leaders that we'd love to have their voices on our governing council. So if you're plugged in with the community, these sort of leaders that are in our footprint that would be interested in joining our neighborhood council. This is sort of this is like less of a question, I guess, and more of a like, we would love to be plugged in with the community if you know of folks or if you have clients, because I think it's a voice that would be really beneficial for us to have as we try to improve our diversity, representing the people in our neighborhood.
Sure. Well, the big nonprofit tenants organizations are ACE, ACCE. There's SAGE, SAJE. But if there's an instance where it's worth coming and doing a Q&A with people, whether it be with your board or whomever. I mean, you can feel free to connect. But I don't have any more availability for the rest through December. But we can connect maybe in January, and then because there's going to be another surge of homelessness beginning in February when all this the second half of COVID rent is due, and when rent increases can be issued. So it's going to be a double whammy at the beginning of February. Because if inflation wasn't enough, we have another avalanche coming. So, but you can definitely plug into those organizations. They are always happy to have new energy and new faces.
So I have a question. Oh, Abel, go ahead. Unmute yourself.
Yeah, you're,
Start rolling.
okay.
It does.
I know.
I'm muted again. Can I hear Tori's question first, and then I'll go? I want to give
Okay.
Go ahead,
Thank you. I was gonna say, even though they had extended the COVID where the landlord could not raise the rent, right?
It's
They
still right
can't.
now.
They can't
Right,
raise
that's
it.
what I'm saying, right now.
Only on rent-controlled units.
Oh,
Right.
only.
So Tori, in other words, if a person is renting a non-RSO, landlord
Right,
is letting a non-RSO, they could have raised their rent recently up to 10%, just based on the
yeah,
formulas
so,
at the state level. It's like 5+ inflation, anyways. up to
right,
10%.
5 plus the inflation,
But for RSO, stabilize.
right, ordinance.
But that's assuming that it falls under the state rent control. If
Right.
there's no state
Well-
rent control, then there is no limit. So you have to see.
Was
is
there
it-
anything that's not under state
Of
rent
course.
control?
No, yeah.
No. And in LA City, they kind of imposed some.
But yeah,
Yeah.
it's like
So
a
if
single
those
family
state-
home owned by an individual.
Right.
There's no.
Right, but the
Right.
city imposed the
So-
state.
What's so hard about this is
Yeah, I would
that
say it's complicated, but the city did, in a little PS in what they did, impose the state requirements on single families, whether or not it was a corporate or LLC ownership.
the hard part with all this is that your rights depend on not just like your zip code, but
Right.
like the specific property you live on. Like
Right.
like your rights, if you lived in this building, could be different than the people in that
Correct.
building.
Right,
And so
Correct.
all of these sort of analyses are done, like they could not be more individual, right?
well,
Because
well,
very rarely do you have
well-
people in the room that are living in the same building.
Well,
That's
and
right.
here's
Right.
another nuance.
Right.
Who gets again, this is from a landlord perspective, who can you give a 3-day notice to quit versus a 30-day? And that is murkier than murky.
well,
So the advice being given is 30 days.
Right, but
Just forget the 3-day notice ever.
they can still do it, but you don't have to
No, it may not
acknowledge
be
it.
legal.
no, you.
No, it may not be legal, they're not supposed to,
It's
but they
murky.
do.
But in
So,
any case.
let me finish my question. So perhaps, like right now, we're still in that COVID umbrella, right?
Correct, ish.
With
Only for purposes of
rent
back rent
increases.
and rent increases.
Right, so
Certain back rent.
certain back rent,
And rent increases.
right, certain, right. So if the date comes, and,
ready
the
first.
governor may extend it again. So then.
I don't get into like if
Oh,
there's new
okay.
policy changes.
Okay, so you
Because
just,
we don't know what that policy would look like.
okay,
So what
okay.
happens is during that COVID period, a lot of people were projecting what they thought the law was going to be and giving people advice
Right.
that ended up not being accurate.
That's right.
So I don't.
Right,
It would
okay.
be irresponsible of me
So
to take
Tori,
that.
That's right.
Tori, right now, sort of basically, starting April 1, almost everybody had to be paying their rent.
But this is February 1st,
No,
right?
last.
Oh, yeah, last year, yeah.
Last April 1,
Yeah,
you had to start paying your rent.
right,
So
April
it's-
1, 2023.
Right.
And then
They
now-
basically sort of at core, there's different kinds of weird exceptions.
Right.
Some people it was February 1, some people it was March 1, but you can.
Okay,
April
but
1.
now this is February 1st,
And then,
2024.
and then the
Correct.
rest of the
Okay.
rent that was back ordered, as it
It's
were.
handed.
Yes, I see.
Yeah. Okay, okay, Abel.
Okay, this is really great. I've got a few questions real quick. First off, I want to share this. You know, I work with the faith community. So you mentioned ACCE and SAGE. What does that stand for? So to make sure I can find it on the.
Acronyms,
Huh?
acronym.
Sage is SAJE, and they've always gone by Sage. I'm sure they have a.
I'll show you what
Strategic
it is.
I don't know.
I can
I'll
find
tell
it
you
on,
what it
I know
is.
Google. I'll get that. And ACCE, I guess.
Yeah,
That's all
I know
got.
ACE is right at USC,
Well, Sage is
on
I'll see if I
They're
can
on Grand.
Grand, right. ACE is on Grand, right in that, little, La Paloma Shopping Center in
Oh,
the
then
first
it's
door
Esplanade.
on the
I'm
street.
gonna go on.
That's
right
right.
after you. Okay, good.
Right,
And then, thank you very much. I didn't catch your name. I'm sorry. Forgive me. I'm getting old. But thank you very much for coming. Counselor.
you have,
My name,
Yeah. I just
spelled
so.
now listen,
Jon, John,
Got
last
that.
name spelled Naudi, naughty. And you can find my webpage is mytenantlawyer.com.
Right.
Yes,
So-
I have my tenantlawyer.com pulled up, and I've got, in fact, I helped you out, John. I copied and pasted the URL for your website that lists all your services. And I see bad living conditions. I see you do have fight evictions and illegal lockouts. It looks great. It looks fantastic. I'm actually dropping my information in for consultation. I rent.
Okay.
oh,
So,
good.
but let me just, and I see that you mentioned no fees unless you win the case, because I was gonna ask you, is it subsidized, but I saw that. The only other question I would ask you, we just had a conversation on the other side of the fence. So on behalf of the dear sister who was
Oh, I can't.
there, let me ask you, and I'm gonna ask you something you might not, but I can tell you're a fair man. Is there anything for the landlords? Is there something like a My Landlord Lawyer that you've heard of?
Yeah, they're all over the city.
Yeah,
Google
Oh.
Land Lawyer.
Yeah.
There's pages of them.
yes,
Pages of them, huh? Okay.
Pages of them. Yeah.
I do. Don't get me wrong. I'm a renter. I have problems with mold. I have problems with some abuse. And I'm not kidding you. I am dropping my information in the consultation, but at the same time, kind of piggybacking off the presentation before yours from Nakia, I mean, the reality is we got people who are doing landlording. We got people doing renting. We're all impacted by this recession. So
Yes.
that's making us homeless. I mean, I'm a step away from it myself, brother. I keep it real. But I thank you for coming, John. I'm so happy you came. Thank you. And who knows? I may be your next client. Thank you.
Maybe.
And
well, I'm sure we're gonna ask John to come speak to the governing board, actually the general public, in January, February, sometime before March. Usually our city council homeless liaison is here as well periodically, and then they come and give us updates, and CD10 give us updates. So we have to make sure that we stay abreast of what is happening. In all of these communities, they're interconnected. I have a situation I just wanted to share, and that was a couple. They were in their 80s. They lived in the marina for 50 years in the same apartment, 50, and the moratorium, they just didn't understand that language, didn't know what to do, didn't know who to call, end up getting put out of that unit. But the primary reason for the harassment was that the landlord wanted to raise the rent, wanted to get market rate. So anyway, they end up calling me, and I pretty much just told him go back and get his stuff. So that's all he wanted to do at that point. Go back and get his stuff. He ended up coming over to CD10, got him a hotel, and so now they're on the track to be able to get their own apartment again. So, out of adversity sometimes comes good things. But he went back into the unit. Police came. So I just told him, put the police on the phone. So I talked to the policeman and talked him into allowing him to get their personal items, without harassing them. Gave him a scenario of what if it was you? And he said, I was just coming to do my job. I said, well, do your job better and have some compassion. And he did. He let them get their items, that they needed for his wife and what have you. But it's so many stories like this right now. It's just unbelievable. It should be against the law to put somebody out of their unit after the age of 80, I don't know, come up with some solutions of how they can get some funding to keep it going. And that's something that we have been working on. And Abel, I must say, is doing a good job, is coming up with some out of the ordinary funding that we've ever had before. And I know that for a fact because I've been helping, as the account coordinator for who knows what, almost 10 years now. So I know that Hopkins is doing different things now than ever before, because I have gone there to even try to get somebody's check from saving their unit, which affects 12 other people, if they lose their housing. If they lose the building, then that affects 12 or 24 other people. So I'm just saying, we got to think out of the box and do things a little different now than what we had in the past. So any other questions for John, or everyone has the link to reach him? And if anyone needs some assistance that then help them.
And Abel, I was going to say SAGE, the acronym is for Strategic Actions for a Just Economy. But you can just Google SAGE, SAJE, and then the word housing is how I got back to it. But they've been around this community for decades.
Thank you, sister. Yeah, all I'm trying to do is I prefer people to give me a flyer, but once in a while with something like this, they're not here. I'm going to create something with a link button for the faith community to push and to share with their people. So thank you for looking that up. That's kind of you. Thank you.
Okay.
Strategic, what was it?
It's
Strategic action. Well,
Action.
just community.
Yeah. For just economy.
for a just economy.
Or-
Right,
Yeah.
so they did not really start out exactly as a housing.
No, they
applicant.
didn't initially.
No, they had
Yeah.
like a communal house on, I think it was on Van Buren, but anyway, in the community, and they started out a little
Yeah.
different and they've migrated to.
Yeah, I have a ace story. I took a lady over there and she was a senior, and she had lived in her place for over 30 some years. It was a luxury apartment with doorman, mail delivery, all the amenities that you could ever want in a luxury unit. But for some reason, they were trying to reconstruct or upgrade the units, and she just didn't want them in there. So eventually they harassed her out of that unit again to get the market rate. And so it was like, oh my God. So I took her quite a few places to see if she could get some help, and including what's the one for seniors? We had a consultation with them, everything, but she never did get a chance to get back in that unit. And it's like, oh my God. So it's like, and she's in her 80s. So there's a lot of things happening to people primarily in their 80s. And so we just gotta do a better job with these seniors. But the sheriffs, I did talk to them, and they said, okay, we'll leave it alone for now. but eventually they had to go in. So it's just not understanding, even if we had someone to refer them to understand the language. And that's part of the problem. You know, they've never in 80 years encountered moratoriums and evictions and things like that ever. And so I can understand them getting lost in the shuffle with the legalities. So that's where the community comes in to assist. Okay, any other questions? Mike, you've been awfully quiet.
I've been writing notes. I have a lot of questions, but most of them have to do with the reentry and what are we doing about the reentry. A lot of problems because I'm one that reentered. I reentered 2021 in the middle of COVID, and after been going 25 years, 8 months.
Wow.
Non-violent, non-serious victimless crime, 3-strike crime, drug possession.
Oh,
and
wow.
So after coming back sober for over 20 years and with 10 college degrees, it was hard for me to find a way to get into an apartment. I got employment rapidly. I had employment within 2 months. But even with employment, I hadn't had a credit rating in over a quarter of a century. So They ran a credit check and they were like, okay, you have to build your credit up, in order for me to even get an apartment. So the qualifications to get into an apartment is kind of high for somebody reentering after 25 years in prison. Wow. Another problem that had after the credit check was the help doesn't last long enough. Well, the average guy coming out of prison, and most people say, well, okay, you were above average. That's why. No, the average guy coming out of prison needs more than 6 months to a year of rent relief in order for him to be successful in re-entering society after 2 decades of some change.
I think
6 months.
Everybody needs more than 6 months.
Yeah, 6 months.
Yeah,
will do it.
if they don't, especially if they don't
A year
have a job.
won't do it if they don't have any credit. A year won't even be enough if they don't have a credit as far as getting into an apartment and keeping them into an apartment, even with employment. Because everybody looks, all of the landlords look to see what your credit score is. If you have anything under 590, yeah, you're in trouble.
Well,
yeah, I had to go to somebody that deals in credit, and they had to go and get some stuff off because people were using my name fraudulently in the last.
Right.
By the time they took everything off, I had a 720 credit score after all of the fraudulent loan applications in my name's over 2 decades.
Well, what we're gonna do about that is.
So hang on a second, I see there's a hand up.
Okay.
I just want to have clarity that we seem to have moved on to item 5, round robin.
Yeah, pretty
discussion. Okay.
Yeah.
And then Abel has his hand up.
Abel, before you speak, I want to ask that you reach out to the reentry person regarding homelessness and what are the statistics as far as housing is concerned for people that have experienced situations such as Mike. That's what I want to request before you start speaking. Thank you.
Okay, now let me speak. So this is where I get in trouble, and it's like someday they're gonna fire me because I just trying to keep it better. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I know you're recording this or something. But let me just tell you, no, I'm not gonna do what you asked me to do. I'm gonna do something different. So forgive me, Tori.
Okay.
I put in the chat already the actual program manager to the reentry program. And I want to suggest that you contact that. And Monty is she's down for people. She's for real. I wish I had Brother Rudy here right now because I know he's got a lot. He contributes to this area, and that brings me to the one thing I raised my hand for. So this is a suggestion to hold on. Can you turn that down for a minute, please? This is a suggestion to you, Tori, that you and I had some back and forth about me coming to attend this meeting. I want to suggest something. So I'm the guy who's connecting them with the faith community. Everything I'm asking you is with the mentality of, okay, let me get this so I can share it with the faith community who's sharing it with the neighborhoods they work in. But let me suggest, Tori, please consider having some of your meetings that focus on particular issues where you can reach out and I'll connect you to them. And instead of having me come, let's have the people like this program manager. If you have a meeting that's for reentry, then we'll have Monty, have Rudy or somebody come. If you have something that's for trauma, for mental health, then we'll have the Trauma Recovery Center come. So let's do that, because when you met me, the one thing I kept trying to get clear with you is I'm not just Hopics. I'm the guy dealing with the faith community. So please consider that, because I can see the power of it. This brother that just talked about his deal coming out right now, I'm like, man, I wish Rudy was here. You see what I'm saying? So
I could come back.
And then talk to me, and I'll hip you to some of the different programs. And you and I sit down like we do. You know, get my one. You got my calendar. We'll sit down and do the Zoom thing, and I'll be like, no, not. I don't. No, they don't have that, but I got this, and we'll set it up. Okay? Is that cool?
Sounds good.
Let's get something done. You know? Okay?
That's why we're here.
Amen. I know you are. I love you, Tori. You're my sister. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Likewise.
You know, you bring me, I'm gonna have something.
I know, that's okay. The kid need to go sleep. Okay, well, it is now 8:16 p.m. Any last round robin concerns? Any questions? Donna, maybe at some point in the future you'll reconsider, since Hopics is new and improved, and we have advocates now. So let's see in the near future. I didn't say tomorrow, but something to consider, and others as well. So, Salonika?
Hey, Donna, what kind of apartment she got? She can rent to me.
Yes.
Did you have a question or any comments or concerns or?
Oh, no, I just wanted to say thank you again.
Well, something I did want to ask you really quick. At some point, I need to know what's the criteria for referrals to the assisted living places that are available, because we had a task force meeting yesterday. They mentioned about the 1,000 beds that we found in the last 90 days, primarily assisted living beds. What could we do to help fill those beds?
We have many vacancies among our LARCA members. So if you do have people who need beds, the criteria is for them primarily, our members care for those who are on SSI and are diagnosed with the serious mental illness. So if you have those, the residents who are looking for homes, I'd love to connect you directly. We can talk offline. You can email me their names. I can reach out directly, and we can also connect based on where they're located and where they'd like to live. We have facilities all over the county.
Okay. And approximately how many beds are available right now?
We have 418 members, and of the members, we probably have at least 500 beds.
That nobody gets referred to.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
But as you know, we're not partners in the care court. We're not partners in the behavioral bridge health housing. So the programs that we are sort of partners with in terms of the state and county, it's more so the CCE, community care expansion funds, as well as the enhanced residential care program. So those are the two different groups. So if you have ERC residents, they too are welcome in our facilities.
Okay. Programs. Okay, that sounds good. But we have to get you connected some other kind of way. Care Court is gonna start in December, so right now is probably the time for you guys to partner up.
I wish we could. The program was written, and we met with LA County DMH, and because licensed ARFs and RCFEs were not written to be included as part of vendors, right now we're not a part of the program, and we're hoping that could change. But as of now, when they wrote the program, meaning the county, they did not include licensed adult residential facilities and residential care facilities for the elderly.
From what I understand from the meeting this morning, I don't think the legislation has been totally approved yet. So I think there's a window that you can probably.
I agree.
Yeah,
We're having ongoing meetings. And LA County is more than just DMH. So it is the, LA County Department of Mental Health, but also LA County Department of Public Health, as well as housing. And so those agencies are the core agencies together, I think, along with the Office of Diversion and Reentry, that are going to be probably executing the program. So we're still working with those county agencies to see if we can be incorporated.
Okay, well, I would suggest that you touch base with Barbara sometime tomorrow and get the name. I think her last name was Hun, one of the commissioners, and they have the details of the legislature.
Okay, thank you. Will do.
Okay, you're welcome. So we all about solutions and making things better. And so I'm glad that all of you are participatory bodies for that to happen. And I thank all of you for coming and attending and having this discussion. And so until next month, which we will be on November 16th,
Right.
because of Thanksgiving, we'll be on the 3rd Thursday as opposed to the 4th Thursday.
Right.
And I'd like to see you all there and bring someone with you. Thank you. We gotta adjourn a little early, but 8 minutes or so, 9 minutes.
It'll take you that much time to get it.
Exactly.
Saving all the transcripts.
Exactly. So we're gonna save the transcript, and the information was there for you to reach out if you want a copy of it. And you guys enjoy the rest of your evening. And thank you again for attending.
Thank you also. Have a good
Okay.
evening, everyone.
Okay, you too. It is now 8:22 p.m.